Welcome to Reseller Recap, where we talk all things reselling across multiple platforms. Join us for real-life discussions on how we crush the elusive work-life balance. Grab a coffee and join us now.
Hi guys, welcome back to Reseller Recap. This week is part 2 of our interview with Saadi from Eclat. He is CPA extraordinaire. So let's get started.
Hilarious. Okay,
It always reminds me of that scene from The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. It's that movie. Something.
That is so funny. I think a lot of this comes into play like good business practices. And I'm always surprised how difficult that is. I know if you're talking about it a lot, you're like, oh, this is just the everyday. You should be using good, like saving your receipts. If you buy stuff, you are making sure you can sell it. You're not leaving it in your car. But that, believe it or not, is such a big issue. You know, I talk to people all the time who are buying product and they don't even have an account yet. So you're like, what, who told you to do that? You know, you're kind of always going back to square one of like, if you buy stuff, you shouldn't be buying groceries and products you intend to sell on the same receipt. You know, like those should be different transactions. Like when I got started, honestly, I didn't know that, you know, like.
Yeah, until you're trying to figure out how to like, now it just makes more work for you, right? All these things are to make your life easier. If you're commingling it, now you have to actually sit there and itemize and go sit there and use the 9 calculator and just add it up, right? Yeah. So what am I going to deduct? So, and there is no crash 101 course. People usually become business owners by accident, right? It's not like I take a course, they teach me all these things, take this deduction, keep this receipt. So you kind of learn as you go, and that's why every challenge or every annoyance or issue is an opportunity to be better. So when you look at it, you get that receipt come tax time, now you're sitting there spending that year 15 hours trying to figure this out. What am I going to do now to not let this happen again, right?
Right.
Fool me once, shame on you, fool me. Whatever the saying is, you guys catch my drift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being in business is a series of processes that you're just doing, and your goal is always to improve on it, right? If you get an IP complaint, don't sell that product anymore. That's pretty obvious, right? Don't buy that again. If you're waiting till the end of the year to figure out your receipts, maybe do it every month. I had someone email me like 13 times at like 11:50 p.m. 2 days ago about she's having an issue with her estimated tax payments. And I said, I didn't answer till the next morning. She said, oh, now I'm going to pay a penalty. I said, I'm so sorry. Maybe next time now. Scheduled a couple of days before so you can anticipate a hiccup, right? So it's doing things to not let it happen again. It's not always a lot of, people love their routines. They usually like repeat, like, when people commit a crime, they're usually like a repeat offender. So that saying is true. You are a system of your habits, and it's really hard to change it, but you got to always be in that gear shift if you want to grow. Because what serves you now is not going to serve you at this level, right? Or that level. And that applies to almost anything in life.
Yeah, so. That's true. I feel like the way I do my accounting has changed, the way I do my books, because I'm like, that worked, that didn't work, or like reconciling. I might have an Excel spreadsheet, I'm putting in all my receipts. Well, before I was not putting what credit card it was on. And then when I was going and reconciling, I'm like, oh my goodness, like which of my 4 credit cards was this on? Now, like I put it on the Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay.
I was surprised.
Now I know these were all on this Visa. These were all on this Amex. I'm like, oh, I should have been doing this from the beginning, but you don't know till you know.
Right.
Or I'm glad you brought up the estimated sales or payments or whatever, because I wasn't doing that. So now I started doing that this year because I got the letter and it was like, oh, we paid an extra few $100s in penalties when I could have just been throwing them, $1,000 every couple months. At least there was something there, so it wasn't such a big deficit at the end of the year. And
yeah, but now and now it's not going to happen again. So that's what business is, right? It just constantly trying to evolve, grow, stay relevant, and that's any industry, whether it's e-commerce, accounting, you're a fitness trainer, whatever the case is. It applies to everything.
And you say that, Emily, too. You make that joke. You're like, if you had to lose $200 to learn that lesson, well, then it was a lesson learned,
Right. That's not too bad. And I get this question a lot in the community on social media, you know, like what should I use Seller Board? Should I use QuickBooks? Should I I think, and I'm interested, I know, I already know what your take is going to be, but I think the best tools out there are the ones you're actually going to use. You know, it doesn't have to be the most popular one, but like if you find one that you actually understand and it works for you, that's what you should be using instead of the one that you're like, I don't know, this is too much for me. And that's how it is for me with everything. Repricers, any software out there, you know, you use one that's really popular. And you're like, oh, this is way too advanced for me. And so you kind of go back to what you know, but the best system out there is the one that you're actually going to use. Bottom line, for any aspect of your business. And I think that really separates the people who stay here in this industry a long time versus those who are in and out in 6 months. And believe it or not, that's most people. You know, they won't stay out in 6 months because everybody thinks they're profitable when they're just looking at their gross sales and the orange bars. And then when you actually look at the fees, you're like, oh, God.
Profit over revenue. I always tell people it's not what you know, profit. Don't people idolize those orange bars, and it's the biggest thing. People, and it's deceptive because these new people think, oh, this guy did 100K in sales, crazy. Yeah, you take him on that's 10-15%. So this guy did it for a year. Yeah, you made 15 grand. Great. You got a part-time job, but you're doing full-time hours. Now it's not just to be discouraging, but the goal should be to get it up, right? What am I doing? But yeah, all these influencers, or I see people, or even shop. Anyways, the top, they're not showing their bottom line. They're showing top line. So just be aware of that.
And I think it's important to understand what kind of business you're trying to build, you know, and a lot of the people you see on social media, they're trying to build businesses where they're not involved. Like they're always hiring people to fill all of this so they can kind of step back and have like this passive revenue. You know, there's hiring people out to do their social media, whereas retail arbitrage sellers, and I'm saying this because when you compare yourself to those guys who are just scaling really to not really be involved in the business, you feel always defeated. Like you should always be doing more. And bottom line, retail arbitrage is a job. You know, it is a job. You're not selling the business at the end of the day for a large sum of money. Most likely, you're not building a brand to sell off. Like if you decide to quit, that's it. There's like not this reoccurring revenue. So it's important to treat it like what it is. It's a job. It's not a side hustle. The IRS thinks it's a job. Your mom might not think it's a job, but it truly is. And it's important that you understand how to build a profitable business and what that means, because there's so many different little niche avenues to this. Like if you're wholesale, private label that aren't really a job, you know, like you're kind of stepping out of that to maybe someday sell it off. So I think that's a really important aspect of this. It's like bottom line, knowing your numbers and understanding these healthy business practices will make you successful long-term versus in and out pretty quick. And I'm sure you see it all on your end, like the guys who are following the orange bars and actually aren't profitable. I mean, so many people are saying they do this and not actually doing it. So it kind of creates this negative conversation.
Well, we talk about that all the time. We're like, stop. Just because they're showing orange bars doesn't mean they actually made money. So I appreciate you saying, hey, guess what? I do their books and they only made $10,000.
So for the wholesale model, you got to, and like you said, you got to understand what type of business you're in, right? Online arbitrage, the margins are higher, but it's not maybe replenishable. Wholesale and these other things, wholesale, very low margin. It's a volume game. Private label requires a large capital investment, and there's no guarantee it sticks. So understand the different model types, and then you got to figure out, how can I systemize this? So maybe online arbitrage, you can't sell this off, but you can systemize it where I'm going to this store, this store, this store 3 times a week on this day at this time. Okay, so that's my sourcing day. On Fridays are for bookkeeping. I track everything there. And then you kind of get yourself in a routine where if you have a flow with things, you can slowly hand off the small things. And you can get to a point where your online arbitrage is recurring and consistently, but it's just figuring out what you're doing. And now, how can I have someone else do that? I've seen people doing OA. They have virtual assistants for a couple of dollars an hour, but they're finding them products. So on this day, they have a list of products they have to go to this store and buy. And it's doing that. It's doing it slowly, but just understand there's no 0 to 100 really quick, right? You have to get your hands dirty in order to learn the business, know what's going on before you can even consider getting help, right? So it's good for you to know your numbers, understand your bookkeeping, because no one knows what's going on better than you. You feel it in your pocket. Yeah, it says I made 10,000, but my pocket says 100. So what? So you're gonna dive in deeper. Your sourcing, you're gonna learn how to source. You're gonna learn how to find these products. I see you post on social media. You get all your products from Walmart and you resell it, right? So it's how can I systemize this? How can I keep this going? And figuring out what task you're doing and how can you, again, like building off of it, right? So knowing what business you're in is a real help. Knowing what role you play in the beginning, you're playing every role, right? You're playing a lot of hats. You're the accountant, you're the marketing, you're the sales, you're everything. So
right,
understand the process. You have to get your hands dirty, and like you said, you have to put in the work. This is a job, but with jobs, you get better, you get promoted. Same thing here. You get better, you get promoted, and then maybe you're doing different tasks. Mm-hmm. And right. I read a saying, 80% of your results usually come from 20% of your effort. So it's really trying to find that, right? And where can I go off of that? If all your money comes from you finding products, your soul, and you're good at it, your sole focus should be that. And then you're trying to work backwards and say, how can I make that my sole focus? Because all these other tasks, maybe there's no immediate ROI, or like bookkeeping, right? You're spending 10 hours a week doing that, or 10 hours a week finding this product. What's going to make you more money? Averting those penalties, which are small, or you actually making something. But yeah, right. that's a saying that sticks with me a lot, and I'm always trying to remember that. Like 80% of my effort or my results come from 20% of my effort, and that's what I'm sticking with. Like for me, what I realize is these private channels, Discords, communities, that's where all my results have been coming from. So why am I trying to post on LinkedIn competing with 30 other people? Why am I trying to do all these other things? And what I'm realizing is, even maybe it doesn't apply to you guys, but the content is really the gold now. So it's really identifying what works for you, what's giving you the best results, and how can I spend the most time on that?
Right. And you wrote a book recently, correct?
Yeah.
Would you call it a book?
Yeah. It's I call it a book. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
It's like 35 pages.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like I didn't mean to offend you. I didn't know if it was like a workbook or like a PDF. But can you talk about that? Like, where can people find that? And we'll have all the links for Saadi below. But talk to us about the book. So
this book is primarily for people that have S corporations. And what I did was I kind of broke down every strategy, every deduction, and everything that applies to an S corp, because it gets I see a lot of information on social media. Oh, switch to S corp, do this. So I figured out why not make an informative book of everything that applies in it. So it's like 35 pages. I can't go over every deduction, but the popular ones are there, right? The Augusta rule, how to write off your vacation home. I put some other key pointers that I know is going to catch attention.
That was really interesting. The vacation home, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. You figured, because that's what people want to hear. And it works.
Yeah.
It works. But make sure we get on a separate call, Jen, if we decide to implement that. But yeah, so I put all these things there, and I figured I'd just make it informative. I made a PDF book. So it's like 35 pages, just good for really, it's only designated for S Corp. So if you're an S corporation, please download it. You can get it in the CFM community, or we'll share a link and I'll share.
Yeah, we can include it in the podcast. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Well, and people ask me all the time in the group too. They're like, "Well, we know that you said you pay your kid. Like, how are you doing that?" That's a popular one. Yeah, and I said that you had given the advice too of like taking the time to write down, like, what is it that they're actually helping you with? Because if the IRS comes back and, and does audit you, if you take a few minutes to just say, okay, these are the tasks my employee helps me with, and you have just a document that you can pull out instead of having to like, oh, wait, I need to write it down. Just have these kind of formal things in place. Then you're kind of just covering yourself before it happens. So, because I'm like, this is what he does. Like, this is what my kid does. Like, he really does work for me, like, especially when he's with summer break right now. You're coming with me sourcing, sir. And guess what? I'm not digging down on the bottom shelf. You can reach that and you can load all that in the cart. So.
Yes. And the best way to pay them is through a 1099, right? I always tell people, don't put them on a W-2, pay payroll taxes. If you pay them under the standard deduction, they don't even have to file a tax return. And you should pay your kids' expenses or let them pay for it with their earned money, right? So the business gets a write-off, and now you're getting they're paying for their daycare or their karate or whatever the case is. So now you have a tax benefit, and you paid with pre-tax dollars versus after-tax dollars versus someone working and paying for it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, this needs to be a whole separate call, paying your kids. And then Jen, you need to write a book, How to Get Your Kids to Work for You. So I need you guys to work together on this.
Well, it has become a great debate at his school too, because my kid can't keep a secret for the life of him. Like, I mean, never tell him a secret, because he went to his friends and they're like, oh, I get $5 allowance. And he's like, well, I get paid $12,000. And then all the kids and the parents come up, they're like, I'm sorry, you give him what? And I was like, well, I have a business and he is an employee. And so after school, guess who's helping me like take packages to the post office? And guess who's helping me put labels on things and move boxes and count things and sort things? And I'm like, he's actually doing the things because he wants to make the money. His new thing is he's saving for a phone. I'm like, you're 7, you're never getting a phone, but feel free to keep saving for said phone. You're not going to get till you're like 16. But yeah, I mean, he's money motivated like his mother. So that's how you want those things. You got to work for it. So it's good because then they learn the value of money too. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this is.
Yeah, I had my first job. I was like 11 years old. Yeah, I remember I just tutored the neighbors. It's really important. And I don't feel like what I learned growing up working, it still applies to this day. So it's really good. It's a good strategy, and it's good for your kids to learn the value of money, right? Versus them just blatantly asking for it and not understanding how hard it is to actually make money.
That's your next business model too, is like make a course for kids to learn how to do like taxes or saving. Because think about that, like you in school were never taught how to do these things. Like I remember in 5th grade learning to balance a checkbook because they were like, okay, here's your salary. It was like a 5th grade thing. Here's your salary. Here's your jobs. Okay. And are you married? Okay. You two are married. You need to find a place to rent, figure out your groceries. You have this many.
They don't do that anymore.
They don't do that. And I was like, that one thing, like I have used my whole life.
Yeah. But algebra, I haven't touched in
calculus.
Ever. All that. Yeah, I've visited the idea. I'm trying to get better at. I'm stuck in the weeds right now, still working. So it's really hard for me to like focus on other things. But I'm trying to build like even a finance course, an investing course. Basic tax 101, right? No one teaches these things. Business tips 101, that would be a good one, right? Yeah. Just certain processes. So maybe.
And now you know, like it's hard to do the business and to do the content and to do the courses.
That's a job. That's a job in itself. That's a whole separate model too. Like it's not gonna, Yeah. That's a job in itself.
That's my daily schedule or my daily wait, what am I supposed to do today? I have 14 really important tasks ranging from creating content to shipping WFS. How do you do it all? When you're wearing all the hats, like what you're saying, it is difficult. And I want to be involved. I've always been involved in each step. And so I understand when a lot of people want to do their own books, they want to do their own content, they want to do their own WFS. Because then, I know where the loss is. I know where I should improve. But that's the hardship of scaling, okay, where should I pull back? I might not make as much here, but I know it's going to be done. that, and that's bottom line. Sometimes that's what's important. It's done.
Yeah. I know. That's a juggle, but I mean, and that was even the conversation, like when we went to some of the big shows like Prosper, where a lot of the big wholesale people are. And I'm like, look, I'm happy with what I make a year because it still gives me some flexibility. That's why I started doing this in the first place, was to have the flexibility and to like show up and be around for my family. However, sometimes I'm working definitely more hours than I would have in a regular job because of that flexibility. I took this day off. Well, guess what? Now I'm working on a Saturday or Sunday, or till late at night. But
that was my whole dream. I remember that's how this idea started. It was like, oh, work 3 months out of the year, tax season, you're off for the year. Yeah. And now I'm still doing like 55, 60-hour weeks. I'm in June. I thought it would be I thought it would slow again, but every year's been different, thank God. But yeah, it's that was the whole pitch. And I like to circle back on that freedom, right? Flexibility, right? Know your why and then build your life around that. If your goal is to scale a massive company and sell and become the richest man in Babylon, yeah, you're gonna work. But if your goal is flexibility and you achieve that, that's the whole point of this, right? So
yes,
knowing your goal, knowing your why, and why you even want to do this whole thing in the first place.
Right.
Let that be a business, a job.
I mean, if you're not rethinking your why all the time, man, I mean, every week I'm like, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? And then I look at, I live in Iowa and standard hourly rate in Iowa is insanely low. And I'm like, okay, that's my why.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this, but my kids are home, for the summer and they are shocked that I work. So that's another thing. I'm like, guys, you're shocked, but I work from home and it's about balancing the schedule and the memories and the fun and like the why of you wanting to go to California is this, like, I have to send in all of this product and continue to work so we can have fun vacations. So I definitely think you should look into like creating a business with kids and how to pay them. I think that's such an awesome topic that there's like not a lot of information out there about that. I'm sure there is, but
let's I'll prepare something and maybe we'll do a call with the CFM community. It's just strictly for that call. But guys, I do have to jump off. I'm sorry. No, thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I would love to do it again. And then hopefully we could maybe write some topics for me. I could prepare something and we host a call. I'm always
let's do it.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for being here. We'll post all of Saadi's links below. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay, that was